Overwatch has been a wild success, selling millions in its first few weeks, surpassing League of Legends in gaming cafes, blowing up YouTube channels and Twitch streams. Thanks, by the way. It's safe to say that Blizzard once again struck gold. And just like when anything else becomes popular, there will be people who try to replicate and emulate that success. But before we talk about Overwatch clones, we should address the elephant in the room. And this is, of course, Team Fortress 2. Overwatch in many ways is a modern-day TF2. It focuses on classes, it's highly stylized, and it's an objective-based shooter. TF2 is also well known for the payload game mode, which has made its way into Overwatch. And there are, of course, some similar hero designs, between Torbjorn and the Engineer, Junkrat and Demo Man, even Mercy and the Medic. There's no denying some of the similarities. However, there's also plenty of differences. For example, Overwatch has a much larger roster of heroes. It also features skills and ultimate abilities, and of course, there are no hats. Blizzard has openly discussed in the past their love for TF2, and they've even said that the comparisons between the two games not only don't offend them, but they're a huge compliment. They're not shying away from the fact that the inspiration is clearly there. It seems like, just like they did with the World of Warcraft and Warhammer, or Hearthstone and Magic, Overwatch is them taking a game and a genre that they enjoy and putting their own bit of a twist and polish on it. And I think it's safe to say that they've been very successful in this process. Beyond my personal interest in the game, it really does seem like Overwatch has become a bit of a phenomenon. And along with that, we expect other game companies to try to ride that wave, which now leads us to the Overwatch clones. I'd like to start things off with the most egregious and obvious offender, and that is League of Titans, or Legend of Titan. I actually couldn't nail down which name was precise. This was literally a straight up ripoff of Overwatch. The heroes' ability, their looks, their design, the map layout and looks, it was all identical. Basically just a low-res version of what Overwatch is. And when this first was shown off, it caused an uproar on the internet. People shouting and screaming and stomping their feet, saying Blizzard needs to sue them, this is ridiculous, it's such a copy. This also goes hand in hand with what we see in some developers overseas where they don't care about copyrights. I mean, one of the most popular games in the East is a straight up ripoff of Counter-Strike. That is literally what it is, and it's one of the highest grossing games that exist, period. It's kind of crazy. But that stuff aside, you know, that's kind of an anomaly. We don't expect most developers to go to this extent to have a direct ripoff, a direct copy of another game. Now, it was later determined that this was evidently not a game they planned to sell. The dev was just making a tech demo and testing what they could actually run on mobile devices, which, as an aside, let's say if you could get something like this running on mobile devices, that's kind of impressive. Like a low poly version of Overwatch on a mobile platform. Hey, it's kind of neat. So let's look at some others that have taken some clear inspiration. Just recently, we saw the open beta start for Paladins, a game that is also a hero shooter. And there are some big similarities in some of the heroes. For example, we've got a big burly hero who has a hook. There's a flying hero who shoots rockets, a knight with a giant blue rectangular shield, and a dwarf who builds a turret. However, beyond those hero design and some of the kit similarities, Paladins is a very, very different game. It, first of all, plays very differently. The game modes are quite different, and well, it's not as polished, let's be honest here, but that's, you know, it's still in beta, so it's got time to improve. Paladins is one of these kind of closest games that you see a lot of people saying are a ripoff, are a copy, but again, beyond those hero designs, there's not that much similar between the two. And then we of course have Battleborn, which you could draw some similarities to a few of the heroes, but beyond that, Battleborn is nothing like Overwatch because Battleborn is essentially a MOBA. It features lanes, towers, creep, and in-game items that you equip, which Overwatch has none of those things, and these are all core components to Battleborn. One of Battleborn's biggest problems was that it launched at about the same time as Overwatch. It was in that same same window. And that's really unfortunate because it buried a game that I think had some pretty good merit on its own. I enjoyed it. But there were so many people drawing those comparisons and saying, oh, what a ripoff, what a copy of Overwatch, they should be ashamed, etc., etc. And in many ways, I think it's just a little unjust. And these are just a few of the recent examples. There will no doubt in the coming months and years ahead be many more titles that people compare to Overwatch. Is that really a problem? Look, everyone who creates something draws on their life experience and outside inspiration. You're going to be hard-pressed to find any truly 100% original ideas. Just in our daily lives, our thoughts, our opinions on things, the language that we know, our religion, our thoughts on society and politics and all of those things. This is all a process of osmosis from the world around us, people telling us things and teaching us things, us digesting them and then regurgitating our own opinions and thoughts on the matter, all of which, for the most part, were said or thought by someone else in the past as well. And video games are no different. Just like Overwatch itself has drawn inspiration from a game like Team Fortress 2, or even drawing inspiration from MOBAs with the design of its heroes, other games will draw inspiration from Overwatch. This happens with every game that becomes successful. People try to emulate it. Need I remind you of all of the MOBAs that came out of the success of the original Dota, or the MMO clones that came out of World of Warcraft's success? This is just a process of iteration and adjustment and tuning. There are people to try to put their own spin on things that are working, formulas that are successful. Now, some copy more than others. I'm looking at you, Legend of Titan, with that blatant Overwatch ripoff. But overall, I think we should worry less about how games are similar and focus more on how they are different. What does a game bring to the table that is special or unique? Because all games will draw inspiration from something else that exists, and just focusing on that is kind of a non-starter. Overwatch isn't itself a fresh idea that no one's ever thought of, but Blizzard put its own twist on it, developed its own heroes and story, has some nice polished gameplay, and in and of itself, that whole package becomes its own special thing. And all of these other games that we want to point to and just dismiss as Overwatch clones, they all have their own unique special thing as well. So I don't think we should just outright dismiss them. I love Overwatch. It is by far, hands down, my favorite game of the moment. I also am always interested in checking out new games, and it always saddens me to see people dismiss things as clones or copies without giving them a fair shake or without really looking into what makes those games unique. Because you could have said the exact same thing about Overwatch, TF2 copying or copying MOBAs with the heroes with skills and ultimate abilities. And if you wrote that off, then you wouldn't be enjoying it now, as I'm assuming many of you are, because I've got a lot of followers who play Overwatch. All right, my friends, that is going to do it for me here today as we talk about Overwatch clones and how I think we should maybe view things a little bit differently. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, I'll see you later.